Welcome back. This is World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The 12th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization wrapped up last week and reached agreements on key issues such as COVID-19 vaccine waivers, food security, fishery subsidies, and WTO reforms. At a time when the world order is under great disruption, what role did China play in the negotiations? How can China contribute to WTO reforms down the road? And how does a strong WTO benefit China's growth in return? I pose these questions and more to China's ambassador to the WTO, Li Chenggang. Take a listen. Ambassador Li Chenggang, what a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Tian Wei.
Congratulations for the success of MC12, China's contribution, and also the significance for the world. It's really impressive. Tell me more about it from your perspective.
This conference was held under the special situation. The pandemic crisis, the geopolitical conflict, and also the food crisis. And even the WTO itself faced a lot of challenges and crises. Fortunately, after the Ministerial Conference, the WTO members worked together, created something meaningful. For this Ministerial Conference, Chinese government sent a high-level official delegation led by the Minister Wang Wentao, Minister of Commerce. I think this is a very strong signal to the world, show the Chinese government's position, strongly support the multilateral trading system. In the whole process, the Chinese delegation actively engaged with other members and showed the flexibilities on the different issues and conducted the facilitation among the members. We are pretty sure we made contribution. And also the Dr. Ngozi, the Director General of WTO, said a lot of kind words to us, to China.
I read some of her comments afterwards and also her interactions with Minister Wang. It's really heartwarming, particularly seeing the pictures after the success of MC12. But tell me more also. It is not only China working with the developed economies, but also particularly developing and emerging economies. So how did you and your colleagues making efforts in order to make things happen before and during the conference?
Yeah, actually the final success depends on the whole work. Before the Ministerial Conference, there's a long process for the preparation work. In that process, China had a lot of talks with the other members, especially the developing members, including the LDCs. We try to know more about the developing countries' position, the LDCs' demands, and try to more accurately know what are their expectations for MC12. Then try our best to coordinate among the different groups. I can give you two examples. The fish agreement, fish. You know, for WTO, for the whole world, when we talk about the issue of fish, it matters the sustainability of the world. It matters the livelihood, but unfortunately, in the past 21 years, nothing happened on this negotiation. So how to collect the outcome by MC12? During the whole process, we conducted a series of meetings with the different members, try to know what's the major concerns of the developed members. They more focus on the sustainability. They more prefer the high level of ambition. Then we move to the developed member and LDCs. They more concerned about the policy space. So from these two positions, you can sense a little bit tension between the two. You have to explore the balance between the two sides.
Yeah.
China is one of the biggest fishing countries. We are ready to make the contribution. for this negotiation. Comparatively, we have a more flexible position. So we can coordinate two sides. That's why in the final stage, China actively communicates a lot of members, try to accommodate the different positions together, try to reach a consensus. Another example is the TRIPS waiver. It matters the COVID-19 crisis. It matters the vaccines for developing members.
Mr. Ambassador, this IP waiver of COVID-19 vaccines has attracted so much attention, and now it's finally being done, but there were a lot of controversies in between, and even also intense debate today, what is the right balance? Now, as the largest developing country, China believes itself it is, and also as one of the biggest economies, also the holder of vaccine patents, coming from the country. So how is China working, with different sides to address this balance? That is a crucial word, isn't it?
Yeah. Finally, we had agreement on this issue, but the process is really painful.
Tell me more about it. You are the one who really know the inside out.
Yeah. When we talk about this issue, we have to balance the different interests. On the one hand, the developing members' demand for the vaccines, which we need to produce something to help the developing members, especially the LDCs, can more easily access the vaccine, can more easily afford the vaccine. But on the other hand, we should also pay attention to the IP protection. This also matters the interest of the producers. We also need to have a think about what's the domestic politics. The different countries have a different domestic politics. We work on this issue, we should keep in mind all the elements. For China, the President Xi already announced last May, China viewed the vaccine as a public goods. We will make a contribution to that. China already announced our position, strongly support to deliver the outcome on this issue. In the specific discussion, what's the issue for us? On the one hand, we will make a contribution. On the other hand, other members, especially the developed members, they hope China can opt out. That means China finally will not use the flexibilities provided by the possible agreement. We face the situation. It's very hard because we also have to think about what's the thinking of our public, right? On the one hand, you make a contribution. On the other hand, you are excluded from the beneficiary group. Sometimes it's not easy for public to understand. So through a lot of communication with our industries, with our publics, and of course, through the proper processes, finally, we made our decision. China will not use the flexibilities provided by the post-war agreement, but as a developing country, China, of course, is one of the eligible members who can enjoy the treatment.
Having said that, though, many, Mr. Ambassador, are looking at the MC-12, not just the final agreement and the so-called win-win-win situation for everyone, but also the bilateral cooperations and also interactions between the two largest economies in the world, namely China and the United States. Mr. Ambassador, I know you and your colleagues from the U.S. has been interacting with one another throughout the process. Tell me more, Mr. Ambassador, about this process.
Because the recent years practice, China-US bilateral relationship is not so good. Some people said it's really bad. right? So in Geneva, among members, they are also worried about that the China and the US can really work together, can really make the collective contribution on the multilateral issues. This time, because China and the US both support to have a successful MC12. So we share the same objective. Then we work in very pragmatic way to explore the landing zone on specific issues.
Mr. Ambassador, there are a lot of things that still needs to be done, both at the WTO and also on multilateral frameworks elsewhere in the world. So tell me more about your biggest takeaway from this round of MC12, and you as a seasoned China representative to WTO.
You know, this time for MC12, trade ministers come together to Geneva across the world. But at the beginning, no one can anticipate what will happen. So the expectations were low, but the stakes were high. We also keep a very clear mind. We know the results hasn't fundamentally changed WTO. WTO still faces a lot of challenges. The WTO's future relies on the meaningful reform.
What is the reform you're talking about, Mr. Ambassador?
You know, as a big family with 164 members, and also the diversity of the economies and the different perspectives, it's really not easy to reach the consensus. We should keep thinking about what might be the effective approach to reach the consensus. Just now we talked about the TRIPS waiver. Actually, the discussion on TRIPS waiver began already more than 2.5 years ago. But just last week, we delivered the outcome. Very frankly, it's late. So if we want to make the WTO can be more relevant, we should reform the function, make it more effective, more efficient. Of course, the basic element is the trust among the members. If members can trust each other, respect each other, I think that will make the process more easier.
Ambassador Li Chenggang, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you, Tian Wei.